Okay, I wanted to make this video. Somebody on the forum asked me to do a quick tutorial on routing with the MRCC, so this is that video. I'm going to cover how to route to and from destinations on the MRCC using the buttons on the bottom of the bottom row here. So the first thing to take into account is that any routing on the MRCC begins by choosing the source. So if you're routing from a DIN input, you need to pick one of the DIN inputs to be the active source to be routed. So currently, number one is selected. Any source is lit with a green LED. Any destination that's activated will be lit with a blue LED there. So in this case, I have DIN input 1 selected for routing, and if I press DIN input 1 out, DIN output 1, and press that, it will then become highlighted blue, and that indicates that I have routing currently from 1 to 1. And if I continue to press routings, I can route to 2, 3, and 4 as well. You'll see that 4 is the last one that's lit, and it's lit brighter than the rest. That indicates that was the most recent routing. And for unrouting, you would simply press the routing again when it's highlighted. So in this case, 4 is highlighted with this brighter LED. So when I press it once, it will become unrouted. Now the brightest will be 3, and if I wanted to unroute 3, I could just press that. However, if I wanted to unroute 2, I first have to press it until it's highlighted, and then press it again to unselect it. So now I will unselect all of those routings. There is currently no routings. This is indicated over here in this activity screen. There are no white squares. You can kind of see there's a little white square that shows up whenever I make a routing. From row, the top row is from input 1, and then it goes to output 1 and output 7 are indicated there. A new feature on this most recent firmware is this screensaver, and you'll see that my screen's gone dark here. To bring that back up, I simply need to press any button once, and that will it's unresponsive until you press any button to bring the screen back on. So you'll see if I wanted to unroute that, I would still have to press it twice just because of that. Okay, so we now have a quick look at how to route from the DIN inputs. Those are simple. You pick a source, then you pick as many destinations as you want, and then you can unroute by pressing the button again to select it, and then once to unroute it. Okay, the next part we're going to talk about is these complex inputs. We have MIDI in and out USB ports. So these are slightly more complicated because there are multiple sources and destinations in some of these. So for instance, the USB host ports have 4 inputs that you can select. Not every device you're going to hook up to it. In fact, most devices will only use 1 input. And so the default, when you select the input, the source, so the left button is going to be your source. It's green. Sources are green. Destinations are blue. So I'm going to hold this down, and while holding it, I can select which of the 4 inputs I want to route from over here. So I can pick the default one is 1, but if I wanted to route from virtual port 3, I would simply press virtual port 3 till it's green, and then when I let go, it's still routing from 3. You can only select 1 at a time, so by holding this down, this is a sub menu that's allowing me to pick which of the ports I want selected. So since 1 is more traditional, and most of the devices that I connect via USB are only going to have 1 MIDI port, I will select 1. And now, when I press these DIN ports here, I'm now routing from USB virtual port 1 to 2, 3, and 9. And over here on the screen, you'll see 2, 3, and 9 are on row 7 there. And that is the USB-A port. Okay, so I will unroute those. And now let's talk about routing to the USB. Say I want to route from input 1 and I want it to go to that USB port. These USB host ports have 4 inputs, but they only have 1 output. So if I want to route to that 1 output, I simply press the destination, which is the right-hand side button for that port. Whoops. Aha. So when I press that, it will light up blue, and that indicates that I have a routing from the green to the blue. And blue in this case is our USB host port output. I can do the same thing for output B. Whoops. Output B, and now I have a routing from USB or from DIN port 1, and it's going to output A and output B on these USB host ports. Now, let's say I want to route from the PC. So with the PC port, we have 12 ins and 12 outs. So if I want to route from the PC port, I first have to select which port I want to route from. So I will hold down the source button, which is this left-hand button, green, and it's select, and at this point I'll select one of these LEDs. These are all lit up kind of a light white, with this one being bright green. It looks in the screen like there's a little bit of blue showing, but it actually doesn't look blue to me here. This is green and kind of a light white color. So this currently indicates that I'm routing from port 1, but I can pick any of the 12 virtual ports in the PC port. So if I have Ableton hooked up on an output coming out on PC port 2, and I want to route that to the DIN port somewhere, so I will then select PC port 2 as my source, make sure it's highlighted green, and then when I let go, that port is selected, and now I'm routing two destinations. So at this point, I can select any of these output destinations. I can select any of the USB outputs. So I can say we're going to send it to C's USB host port output, or I can send it to DIN port 1. Let's say I have Ableton and I want to send it out to my drum machine on port 1. So I would just select, let's say it's on virtual port 2. I select 2, that's now green. I let go and I route it to port 1. Or say I wanted to go to 5, I would just hit 5. So at this point, I have a source selected and I can pick as many destinations as I want. That's the basic backbone of the routing system of the MRCC. Is once you select a source, you can select as many destinations as you like. Okay, so let's say I want to route from a USB port, one of these host ports, and I want it to go to the PC. So what I'm going to do is I'll select my input, and I'm going to hold down the left-hand A button, and this will give me my subdirectory here of which input port. I'm going to pick 1 because I have it hooked up to something. Let's say it's like a key step, which only has 1 MIDI channel, or 1 MIDI port. So my key step is, we're going to make believe my key step is on input A, and so now when I let go of button A, I have 1 selected, so I'm routing from the virtual port 1 on host port A, and I want to send it to the PC port. So this is the part where it's a little tricky to wrap your head around. For PC port destinations, you have to hold down the right-hand destination button of the PC port, and then select one or more of the virtual ports in that destination. So the PC port has 12 destinations, and so if I want to send it to port 2, I hold down the destination button, press the 2, and now it's routed from input A1 to PC port output 2. And the output, the destination is always blue, the input or source is always green. So now I can, if I want to, let's say I want that to go not only to virtual port 2, which, whatever is hooked up to whatever in my computer, but let's say I also want it to go to a DIN port. So I have it selected as a source, it's lit up green. So now I pick a destination, and let's say I want it to go on DIN port 5. I can just press button under 5, and now it's sent to the DIN port. So I have it currently set to PC port 2. So when I hold down that button, it brings up the sub menu that shows the routings for the PC port. And then I also have it sent, when I let go, it just shows the normal routings to these DIN ports. And I also have it sent to DIN port 5. So that's basically every type of route. Oh, there is another routing, but I don't have it hooked up. But if I wanted to route to an expander, if I had the MRCC hooked up to another MRCC, or if I had it hooked up to the remote 7, what I would do is I would hold down this Y-guide button, and then that would bring up it would essentially allow me to select one of the ports here, and they would light yellow, and that would indicate that I'm doing a remote routing through the expander port on the side. So I think that covers just about everything. I might choose to add a little bit more to this or not, but let me know if you have any more questions about this. I'd be happy to cover it in more detail or to clarify on some things. So yeah, thank you very much.